Scandal had always been a companion to the Forresters, but this time, it cut deeper. The whispers didn't just linger in boardrooms or tabloids, they crept into every hallway. Every glance, every glass of champagne raised at a Forrester event. This time, it wasn't just another affair or a broken engagement. This time, someone had pulled a gun. And the name on everyone's lips was Luna. What began as a rumor had quickly turned into a storm. Luna, sweet-faced and quiet, suddenly cast as a puppet master using drugs to manipulate Will. The accusation felt absurd at first until Will himself collapsed in the middle of a press meeting. A toxicology report revealed traces of a rare sedative in his bloodstream. He barely remembered anything about the previous night, but what he did remember was drinking from a glass Luna had handed him. That was enough to spark suspicion. The Forresters were shaken. Will, confused and furious, demanded answers. Ridge ordered an internal investigation. Luna was called in, her voice trembling as she denied everything. But her protests were quickly drowned by the growing evidence, security footage of her near Will's glass, inconsistent statements, and a suddenly missing bag of prescription pills from her purse. It was almost too perfect. And maybe that was the problem. Because while the world zeroed in on Luna, the real orchestrator stayed buried in the shadows, watching, waiting, planning the next move. Carter Walton had always been a man of control, precision, image. The public saw a respected legal mind, a loyal friend, a man who had endured heartbreak and emerged stronger. No one ever suspected he could be capable of anything beyond calculated ambition. But Carter had changed. After losing hope and spiraling into grief, something in him fractured. And when he emerged, he wasn't the same man. The charm remained, the poise. But underneath it all, a darker purpose had begun to take root. He was tired of being the background. Tired of waiting for approval, for permission, for legacy to be handed down through bloodlines instead of earned through merit. He wanted power. And he wasn't going to wait for anyone to give it to him. Luna was just a tool. Her closeness to Steffi made her the perfect pawn. By framing her in a series of carefully orchestrated events, first with Will, then with the shooting, Carter could erode Steffi's trust, destabilize her leadership, and destroy her credibility in one sweeping motion. All it would take was one public scandal too many. The shooting happened at a product launch. A single bullet fired from a balcony, grazing Luna's shoulder as she stood beside Steffi. Chaos erupted. Security scrambled. And when the gun was found in a nearby dumpster with fingerprints wiped clean, the city's entire media apparatus lit up. Was Luna the target? Or was it Steffi? But what Carter didn't plan for was the anonymous envelope. It arrived 2 days before his wedding to Hope. No return address. Just a neatly sealed package slipped under the door of Ridge's office. Inside, photos, text messages, a blueprint of the Forrester estate, notes scribbled in Carter's handwriting, and the smoking gun, a full breakdown of Carter's plan to frame Luna, including a timeline, surveillance photos, and a damning voice memo extracted from his burner phone. It was all there. And Ridge didn't hesitate. The wedding day dawned bright. Hope wore a custom gown from the latest collection, soft ivory silk with hand-sewn lace. Guests filled the estate. Smiles were exchanged, champagne was poured, the music swelled. Then the sirens cut through it all. Police arrived in full force, slipping through the garden, stepping onto the marble aisle just as Carter turned to face Hope at the altar. Carter Walton, the lead officer, called. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit attempted murder, drugging with intent to harm, and obstruction of justice." Gasps filled the air. Hope dropped her bouquet. The guests froze. Carter didn't run. He didn't speak. His eyes found Ridge schooled, calculating, and then Hope's. "I was going to fix everything," he said quietly. "You weren't supposed to know." Hope shook her head in disbelief. "You tried to kill Steffi. You drugged Will. You used Luna for us," Carter snapped, his mask finally slipping. "So we could finally have the life they stole from us. You don't understand what it's like to always come second. to always watch from the sidelines while people like Steffi and will inherit empires they never earned. The officers cuffed him, pulled him away. The wedding guests parted in silence. Hope didn't move for a long time. Later, in the empty bridal suite, still wearing the dress that was never meant to be worn down the aisle, she stared at herself in the mirror. Everything about the day felt surreal. She had once loved Carter, had nearly married him, had mourned him when she thought he was gone. Now, he was the man who had nearly destroyed her family. Luna was cleared days later. The evidence from the envelope left no doubt had been framed with surgical precision. The Forresters rallied behind her, Steffi included. Will resumed his place at the helm of operations, visibly hardened but grateful to have the truth. As for Hope, she returned home to a house that suddenly felt too quiet. Liam found her on the balcony one night, staring out at the city lights. "It's over," he said gently. "No," she whispered. "It's never really over." She didn't cry. She was past tears. What she felt now was numbness, exhaustion, a deep, aching kind of sadness that didn't scream, it just sat, heavy in her chest. "I chose wrong." Again, Liam sat beside her. "No, you believed in someone. That's not wrong. That's who you are. I keep losing pieces of myself. Then let's start finding them again." Together, she turned to him. "You're still here." Always, in the weeks that followed, life resumed but slower, quieter. The Forresters tightened their circle. Trust wasn't given as easily. And Carteron's a fixture in every family meeting, every decision. Beckham a ghost. Hope visited him once in custody. Just once. "I needed to see your eyes," she said through the glass, "to know if it was real. If you ever really loved me." Carter leaned forward. "More than anything. And I still do. But you turned it into poison. You were never supposed to find out. If the plan had worked, none of this would have happened. You talk like that justifies anything." He didn't answer. She stood. "I hope you never stop thinking about what you did. I hope it keeps you up at night." She walked out without looking back. From that day on, she let him go. She and Liam didn't rush into labels. No grand declarations. No second weddings. Just quiet mornings. Steady hands. Honest conversations. Maybe it wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real. And after everything they had survived, that was enough. The walls of the Forrester mansion had seen decades of betrayal, passion, triumph, and heartbreak, but nothing like this. Nothing that shattered the foundation of the Forrester family the way Eric's death did. A titan of the fashion world, a patriarch of strength and vision, Eric Forrester's legacy had been built across generations, but it all came to a sudden, tragic halt on one quiet September afternoon. And it wasn't age or illness that took him. It was betrayal. Raw, unexpected, and devastating. It started quietly, as things often do. Eric had been planning a surprise event to mark his semi-retirement from day-to-day operations at Forrester Creations. He wanted to hand off the creative reins to Ridge, oversee from afar, and spend more time at home with Donna. Their relationship had rekindled in the last few years, sweet, warm, and full of affection that Eric thought he'd never feel again after years of complex romantic entanglements. Donna was his soft place, his smile in the morning, his comfort at night. He trusted her. Fully. But while Eric planned his exit with grace, something else was happening within the halls of the company he built. Donna, often underestimated because of her gentle demeanor, had started something reckless, something dangerous. An affair. Not with a powerful executive, not with a peer, but with a young, striking employee barely older than her son. A man whose presence had begun as nothing more than a flirtation near the fabric samples, a comment exchanged in the design suite, lingering glances in meetings. It had grown into secret lunches, accidental touches that weren't so accidental, and finally, moments behind locked office doors that neither of them could deny. For Donna, it had started innocently. She told herself it was harmless attention, something lighthearted in the monotony of long days and a quiet house. Eric was busy. He was aging. And even though she loved him, there was something electric about being seen by someone younger, someone hungry, someone who looked at her not as Eric's wife, but as a woman. Desirable. Needed. But secrets don't stay buried long in the world of Forrester Creations. Eric found out days before his collapse. It wasn't from Ridge or from a private investigator. It was a video, a short clip sent anonymously to his private email. He opened it expecting design files. What he saw instead was his wife pressed against the wall of her office, locked in a kiss with a man he barely recognized. Young, smirking, wearing a Forrester badge. The breath left his lungs. He didn't shout. He didn't call her. He didn't even respond to the email. He sat alone in his study for nearly an hour, the screen frozen on her face, her hand tangled in another man's shirt. Then, without a word, he stood up, took 2 steps toward the hallway, and collapsed. The heart attack was instant. Silent. By the time help arrived, he was unresponsive. Donna was in a meeting when the call came. At first, she thought it was a prank. Eric had been fine that morning drinking his favorite tea, kissing her on the cheek as he left for a walk. But when she arrived at the hospital and saw Ridge pacing outside her stomach dropped. He wouldn't even look at her. The doctor came out 20 minutes later. Time of death, 2:12 p.m. Cause cardiac arrest, likely induced by acute emotional stress. Donna didn't cry right away. She went numb, walked down the sterile corridor, looked at Eric's lifeless body on the hospital bed, touched his hand. It was still warm. Only later, alone in the car, did the sobs come. And with them, a sick, spiraling guilt that wrapped around her throat and refused to let go. The funeral was a media frenzy. Designers, celebrities, former flames, friends, and rivals all showed up. But no one dared speak directly to Donna. Brooke stood by her sister's side like a shield, but even she couldn't block the looks. The whispers. Everyone knew. The rumors spread fast. Eric died of heartbreak after discovering Donna's affair with a boy half her age. No one said it aloud at the service, but they didn't have to. The worst part? The young man Leo was there, hiding behind dark sunglasses, looking near the back of the chapel, his face pale. He left before the ceremony ended. Donna didn't chase after him. She couldn't even look at him. In the days that followed, she stayed in the house, Eric's house, surrounded by his suits, his sketches, his notes left on the kitchen counter. Every corner reminded her of what she had thrown away, what she had betrayed. And still, she couldn't make sense of why she had done it. The attention, the thrill. Was it loneliness, boredom, or had she simply been selfish? Brooke tried to comfort her. Katie visited with soft words and reassurances. But nothing could drown out the question everyone kept asking sometimes aloud. Did Donna regret it? The answer was yes. But it was more complicated than that. She regretted every moment of secrecy. Every lie told to a man who trusted her completely. Every time she chose silence over honesty. But most of all, she regretted never telling Eric the truth herself. That he had to find out in the most humiliating, devastating way possible. That his last moments on Earth were spent watching the woman he loved betray him. Ridge refused to speak to her. Steffi called her a disgrace coldly, without filter. Zende couldn't even look her in the eye. Hope tried to remain neutral, but even she struggled. Eric had been more than a figurehead, was the heart of the family. And Donna had broken it. The company board met a week after the funeral. Reg, now sole creative lead, announced a restructure. Donna's position was under review. There was no vote. Just a silent agreement that her presence at Forrester Creations was no longer tolerable. She packed her office quietly. No press conference. No farewell party. Just a few cardboard boxes and a wave of ice avoiding hers as she walked through the halls. Leo tried to reach out. Once, a text, then a knock at her door. She never answered. She couldn't. He had become the symbol of everything she wanted to forget. even if he wasn't the villain, even if she had chosen him willingly. The damage was done, and no amount of explanation could undo what she had destroyed. Weeks passed. Donna stayed quiet. Her face slowly faded from the tabloids, replaced by scandal after scandal. But her silence wasn't peace, it was punishment. Self-imposed exile. She visited Eric's grave on what would have been their anniversary. Alone. No cameras. No makeup. Just her and the marble stone. "I loved you," she whispered. "I still do." She placed a single white rose on the grave. And for the first time in weeks, she let herself say it. "I'm sorry." The wind didn't answer. The grave didn't forgive. But maybe, just maybe, the act of saying it was the beginning of something. Not redemption. Not absolution. Just acceptance. Because Eric Forrester was gone. And Donna would carry that weight for the rest of her life.
Oh.